Hey everyone, Omogonix here and welcome to what I believe is part 17 of my tutorial series where I teach you guys how to make a first-person horror game in Godot. So in the last part we worked on the settings menu. Now we haven't done the coding for it yet, but that is something we are going to be working on in this part. So that's actually the thing we're going to be starting off with. And then another thing which I want to do is I want to make the main menu. So yeah, let's get right to it. So first off, of course, we're going to be working on the settings menu. So in my settings scene, I'm just going to click on my parent object of the settings scene here. And then in the inspector tab, where it says script empty, I'm going to go new script. So now we're just creating a new script, and I'm going to save it into my general scripts folder. There we go, and create. Alrighty, so now let's actually do a function for each of these settings. So the first thing we're going to be doing a function for is the scaling slider. So that's for the 3D scaling. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do func scale 3D. And then in parentheses here we're going to be doing value. So value will be the value of the slider. And that will be needed for, when we attach the signal to the function of the slider. So then we do the two dots. So now what we do here is we go get underscore viewport dot scaling 3D scale and then equals value. So basically what we're doing is we are grabbing the viewport of our game, so that's how we actually see what's going on in our game, that is our viewport. And then we grab the scaling 3D scale, and then we just add on our value to that, and then boom, the scaling 3D scale is set. So yeah, it's literally just as simple as that. Alright, so next up we'll do the volume slider, so this is for the master volume, I believe. So what we're going to do here is we are going to go func set master volume. We can just call this function. And again, since this is a slider, I'm going to be adding in this value. I'm going to be adding in this value variable there in the parentheses, and then I'm going to do the two dots. So for this, it's pretty similar. I'm pretty sure it's just one line. So what we want to do here is we want to do audio server dot set bus volume dB. So now what we want to do is we want to grab the bus index. So I'm pretty sure the bus index for the master volume is 0 by default, so we're just going to go 0, and then we want to set our volume dB. So what we're going to do for this is we're going to convert it to linear, so we want to do linear to dB. We're going to convert from linear to dB. Since our audio volume slider, its min value is 0 and the max value is 1. So basically what we're doing here, since the audio volume dB can go between like negative 80 decibels and like 6 decibels, what we're doing is we're trying to set the audio linear, so then when our value is set to 0, then the equivalent is actually converted over to what 0 would be in decibels. So yeah, hopefully that made sense. I'm not really the best at explaining things sometimes. But anyways, what we want to do here inside of this linear to dB function is we want to do value, and then boom. Just like that. So that there sets the bus volume for our master volume. So next up we'll do the sound effects slider. We can just literally copy this function here, and then just paste it underneath. And we'll call this sound effects volume. And so as you can see here with my audio buses, right, we have the master one and the sound effects one. So your first audio bus, which is usually always going to be master, that bus index will always be 0, the first one. So then your second audio bus, this will have a bus index of 1. So my sound effects volume bus index, I'm just going to set this to 1, and boom, that is literally that function done. So then our music slider, now we don't have a music bus yet, so I am just going to add a bus, and we'll call it music. There we go, just like that. So now we can just copy this function once again. Just change sound effects to music, and then just change the bus index to 2, and then boom, that there is our music slider done. So now we have the player look slider. So for this one, what we're going to do is we're actually going to create a variable, and we're just going to call this player head, just like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go func_ready if get underscore tree dot current underscore scene dot name equal to level. So what we're doing is we're checking if we are loaded into the main level, and then if it is, player head will equal to get underscore tree dot current underscore scene dot get underscore node. So we're getting the node from our level scene, and that will be player slash head. So yeah, we're getting our player's head. So here I'm in my player scene here. We can just get player and then head, just like that. So yeah, that's how that works in the script here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create a new function. We'll call this func set look speed. And again, value, since this is going to be a slider. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to do player underscore head. Now, it's important that you, when setting the sensitivity, that make sure that you do get the correct variable name. So I'm just trying to look for my there it is, the FP cam script. So as you can see here, the variable in my FP cam script is called sensitivity. So do make sure that you do use the correct variable name. So playerhead.sensitivity equals value, and boom. So just like that, our player's head sensitivity will be set. Or our player's look speed, I should say, to be more precise. But yeah, also one other thing which I forgot to do is we need to do if player head not equal to null. And the reason as to why is because let's say for example you're in the main menu, right? The player isn't present in the main menu scene, so therefore we can't actually grab the player head at all. You know what I mean? It can only be in the level scene itself. So that's why we have if player head not equal to null. So then if the player is actually changing the look slider's value in the settings, then there won't be any errors or anything like that. So yeah. Alright, so next up we're going to be doing the window mode. So for this we're going to do func set window mode. And now instead of doing value, what we're going to do here is we're going to do index. Now what you call the variable here isn't important at all. You can call it value still if you want to, but I like to sort of differentiate whenever I am doing the the option buttons or the sliders, for example, their functions. So yeah. So for our window mode here, what I'm going to do is if index equals to 0. So what that means is if we select the top option, which is for us windowed, then what will happen is we will do display server, I believe it is. Yeah, it's display server.window set mode, and then we can select windowed here for the mode, just like that. So then we can just get this and then just paste it just like that. So if index equals to 0, then else if index equals to 1 and 2. Since we've got three options here, we've got windowed, full screen, and exclusive full screen. So instead of windowed, for index 1 we're going to be setting this to full screen, and then for index 2 this will be exclusive full screen, and just like that. So that there is us setting our window mode. So yeah, overall setting settings in Godot is pretty easy, like doing the individual functions for them, right? But when it comes to doing lots of settings in your settings menu, whilst the coding for it is pretty easy, it can just take up a lot of your script, because you're having a function for every individual thing. Alright, so next up is going to be for the shadow quality settings. So next up we're going to do func set shadows, and this is again going to be index since it's an option button. So if index equals to 0, then what will happen is we will do, so I think it's rendering server dot, here it is, I found it, positional soft shadow set quality. Yes, I know that is a long function, but then we do rendering server shadow quality hard, since that is the first option, so that will be index 0. And then however many options you have for your shadows, that's how many indexes you will do. So for me, I'm going to do up to 5 different ones, so I'm going to duplicate this 5 more times here. So do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then just put L out the front of the ifs, so then it's else if for these ones here. and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then set hard to very low instead, so soft very low. And then we want to do soft low here, then soft medium, then soft high. There we go. And then last but not least is soft ultra. Alright, so that there is setting the shadow filter quality. However, this is only for the positional shadow filter quality. What if you want to set the directional one as well? Now you might be thinking to yourself, what's the difference between directional and positional? Well, positional refers to lights like your spotlights and your omni lights, so, you know, ones that aren't to do with the sunlight. However, your directional shadow filter quality is, well, it's your directional light, the sunlight. So every other light in Godot is a positional light, but the directional light, that is directional, you know, it's the sunlight. So what we're going to be doing here is we're just going to be copying this bit of code here, then just pasting it above, then we're going to be changing positional to directional, and I believe that should work, yep. So then we just copy this again, just paste it underneath, just like that, and then we are going to, you know, change hard to very low and stuff like that, but yeah. And boom, just like that. So that there is our shadow filter quality setting done. I think I'm going to do my next function up here so that I don't have to keep on scrolling up and down and stuff. So the next one is going to be for the anti-aliasing. So we're going to do func set AA, so AA is just short for anti-aliasing, and then it's going to be index once again. Alrighty, so after we enter in our function name, what we're going to do is we're going to do if index equals to 0, then do get underscore viewport. So for our index 0, we just have none as the option for our anti-aliasing, so we're going to do get underscore viewport dot msaa 3d equals, and what this will equal to is MSAA disabled. So basically we're just going to be disabling all the options here. So get underscore viewport, so if they are enabled, then, you know, then they're disabled now. So then we do a screen space AA, which then that will equal to screen space AA disabled. So screen space AA is the FXAA right there. And then we're going to do get underscore viewport, once again, dot TAA, use TAA, and then that will now equal to false. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So now for index 1, what we do is we do if index equal to 1. So index 1, that's FXAA. So what we're going to do is we'll just copy these 3 lines right here, paste them, and then screen space AA, we're now going to set this to FXAA, just like that. But then you just keep the other things here disabled. Then we just copy paste once again. So now TAA, so now we're just gonna redo this as disabled here for the screen space AA, then TAA will equal to true. And by the way, you can change these from else, you can change this to else if as well, else if, and then this will be 2. Alright, then paste that. So next up now we're doing the MSAA, so it'll be MSAA 2x first. So 2x, oh wait, it needs to be capital. And then this will be false. There we go. Alrighty, so now let's just copy this. Oh wait, this will need to be 3 as well. Alright, so just copy paste, make that 4. Then all I need to do here is just change this 2 to a 4 for the AA setting. Then else if index equals to 5, then it will be set to 8. And boom, that is it for the anti-aliasing setting. So now we have our FPS setting. So for this, of course, we're going to do func set FPS cap, and it will be index once again. And then we do engine dot max FPS. Oh wait a second, first off what I need to do is I need to do if index equals to 0, sorry, and then we do engine dot max FPS equals to 30, and boom, because you know, index 0 here is 30 FPS, then 60, then uncapped. So if index equals to 0, that will be 30. Then if it equals to 1, then the max FPS will be 60. But then if it equals to 2, it will now be uncapped. And uncapped is literally just 0. Just like that. So then we do else if, and boom. Alright, we're almost done with these settings. We've got quite a bit done here. And I didn't realize how long this recording was so far already. Alright, so next up is the vsync settings. So we're going to go func set vsync. And for this one, we're going to be doing toggle, since this is going to be a button, just a regular button. And so for this, we're going to be doing display server dot set vsync mode, window set vsync mode. And oh yeah, I forgot, we need to do if not toggle. So if not toggle, then so what that means is if toggle equals to false, then we will disable the vsync mode. Here, wait, I need to redo the parentheses, there we go. Then we can select the vsync mode as disabled. Then we just copy that, paste, and then else if toggle, then we do vsync enabled, just like that, and boom. Alright, so now we have to do our SSIL, which has to do with our world environment node. So again, it's going to be very similar to the play ahead with how we're going to do this. So we need to do var environment. And then what I'm going to do with this as well is I'm going to do 2 dots and then environment. Just like that, because we want the type of this to be an environment, so then we can actually see the proper variables and stuff we can use. So then, just like here with the play ahead, if get underscore tree dot current scene dot name equals to level, then we do environment equals, and so make sure that you go into your level scene and check what your environment name is and the path of it. So for me, it is simply get underscore tree dot current underscore scene dot get node. So I'm just going to copy this, then world environment. Then in order to specifically grab the environment of your world environment, you then do dot environment, just like that. And boom. So now we do func set SSIL. And then toggled. And if environment not equal to null, if not toggled. Oh wait, no, we don't even have to do that. For this, we can just simply do environment dot SSIL enabled equals toggle. So then, you know, whatever toggle equals to, the SSIL will equal to, just like that. Alrighty, so the next setting we're going to be doing is func set glow. So now we're going to be setting the glow. So again, we're going to be doing if environment not equal to null. Then what we do is environment dot and then glow enabled equals toggle. Also, I just remembered that I forgot to put toggle into there. There we go. Alright, so I believe the last setting we've got to add now is for the volumetric button. So we do func set volumetrics and then toggled again for the variable here. And then if environment not equal to null, environment dot volumetric fog enabled equals to toggled, and there we go. Alrighty, so now that we've written out the functions for all the settings, now we need to actually connect them up to their respective interactables. So for the scaling slider, for example, this will be attached to the actual scale function, so the 3D scaling function, which is called func scale 3D. So with the slider, for example, what you do, so click on your slider in your hierarchy, then in the inspector menu to the right, switch over to the node tab here. Then where we have value changed, you want to double click on this, and then you want to attach your scale 3D function, just like that, and boom, now it's connected, and you'll know it's connected because this little green symbol here to the left should show up. So now I'm going to rinse and repeat with all the other settings. So we've got the volume slider, so I'm going to be attaching the set master volume function to this. So again, going to double click on value changed, then go set master volume, connect, and boom, there we go. So now for the sound effects, value changed, set SFX volume, connect, and boom. And then now next for the music, so set music volume, connect, and boom. So yeah, just keep on doing that with your options. So I do have one more slider here, which is set look speed, and then boom, just like that. Alrighty, so now we're on to the option buttons. So for the option buttons, so click on your option button, and then where we have items selected, you want to double click this now. So this is for the window mode, so I'm going to go set window underscore mode, connect, and boom. And then we have the shadows, so same thing, double click on item selected, set shadows, and boom. So next up we have the anti-aliasing, so I'm going to do the same thing, set underscore AA, and boom. Then the FPS, set FPS cap, and just like that. So now we have our regular buttons, so for this, what you want to do, so click on your button, and then where it says toggled, with the ball next to it as well, you want to double click on this, and then so this is for the VSync, so I'm going to go set VSync, connect, then we've got SSIL, so I'm going to double click on this, set SSIL, connect, then we've got the glow, so set underscore glow, and boom. And then last but not least is the volumetrics, so we go set underscore volumetrics, and boom, just like that. So as you can see, we now have all our settings connected up, and they should all work perfectly fine. So without further ado, let's actually go test out the settings and see how they all work. So I'm going to go into my level scene here, then I'm just going to go click the clipboard to test out the scene. Alrighty, so now in the settings here, if I was to change the window mode, for example, I'll change this to windowed. And as you can see, my window mode has now changed to windowed. So if I change it to full screen exclusive, it is now full screen exclusive. And then also we can, again, set the 3D scaling here, for example. So now as you can see, things look much more pixelated now with the 3D scaling turned all the way down. And also, of course, we can set the volume. So if I was to turn down the master volume, for example, as you can hear, there is now no sound in the game, so now it is just completely silent. And then if we turn up the master volume but then turn down the sound effects volume, because every sound we have is sound effects at the moment, all the sounds are going to be muted once again. Let's try out the look speed. So if I was to turn down the look speed all the way to the lowest, now my look speed is slower. But then if I turn it all the way up to the highest, it is now much faster. Alright, let's actually play around with these world environment settings. So if I was to turn off SSIL, glow, and volumetric fog, you can tell that the lighting looks different now. In fact, let's just turn up the 3D scaling a bit more, and I'll turn back on the settings just so we can do a better comparison. So here's what the game looks like with the all the environment settings on. Then here's what it looks like with them off. So we just turn them off. And boom, as you can see, the lighting does look a bunch different now, and the game looks sort of sharper in a way too, because it doesn't have the volumetric fog blurring the visuals a bit. But yeah, so yeah, that there is our settings menu. Everything works good. Now another thing which we're going to need to do as well is we need to save our settings, because if you want to exit the game then go back in, it saves you time having to then set your settings back to normal, because then the game will just set them automatically. So what I usually do when it comes to saving my settings, again, if you guys know a better way, then you can do it a better way if you want to, but this is how I usually do it. So I go func save underscore setting, and then what I do in the parentheses is I add in the setting name. So I might just do save underscore name, make sure that's a string variable, then I do a comma, and then here I actually have the value. So this will be, the toggled variable, or, the value variable, or the index variable from one of these settings functions here. That's what will go here. So then what we do is we then do var save equals file access dot open, and then user dot dot and then // and then you want to go outside of the quotation mark here, then we do plus save underscore name, then plus again. So basically we're adding the save name into this into the name of the save file. Then you want to do the quotations again, then with the dot. So now this will be your file type. Now the cool thing about these save files here is you can make the file type literally whatever you want. So if you wanted to make the file type .skibbity, you can totally do that. If you want to do .omo, which is what I've been doing with some of my games lately, you can totally do that. At first I used to do .dat, since that's what I, first learnt it as. But then when I learnt that you could literally just do any file extension type, I started doing .omo. So again, you can do literally any type, and just to prove that here, I'm going to be doing skibbity toilet as the file type. And then after you enter in your file extension, you want to go outside of the quotation again, then do a comma again, and now file access.write, since we're going to be writing a new file. So now what we're doing is we do save.storeString, so we are storing a string into our file, and what this will be is this will be our values. So what we do is str to convert it to a string, and then we just enter in value, and boom, that will now store that into our save file. And then we do save.close, and boom, just like that, then we close our save file to make sure everything's all good. So now here's what we're going to do with our save functions here. So what we're going to do here, so I'm going to use the set volumetrics as an example. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do save underscore setting, so we're using the save setting function. And then what you want to do for the save name is you want to enter in whatever you want your save file for that setting to be called. So for the volumetrics, for example, I want it to be called volumetrics. And then we just do a comma outside of that, and then you want to enter in your value. So the value for me is the toggled bool, so I will be entering toggled here. And boom, so that there is how we simply save our settings. So I'm going to do the same thing with the glow, so save underscore setting. And then in quotations glow, comma, and then we enter in the toggled variable, since that is the value of what is being saved. So again, save underscore setting, this is for the SSIL, toggled, and then vsync as well. So yeah, you just want to repeat this for every single setting you have here. Oh wait, it's called, I accidentally called it toggled here, there we go. Alrighty, save underscore setting, FPS, index, same thing with the AA, with the anti-aliasing, 3D scaling, and then we also have a thing for the master volume as well, then the sound effects volume, then the music volume, then the look speed, can't forget the window mode of course, alrighty, so now all our settings have been saved, so whenever these settings get set now, they'll now be saved into a certain folder. If you want to know what that folder is, in your Godot project, if you go up to the project tab here, and you click on it, go to open user data folder, and this is where your user data will be saved. So it will be saved into your app user data folder. So as you can see, there's nothing in here yet except for this stuff, so you don't want to go deleting any of this. This could be important stuff, I've never messed around with that, so yeah. You can also access your logs here for your sessions if you ever want to check that. So that is something also useful about this, is your game logs get your game logs get saved into there. So what I'm going to be doing here is we're going to be saving our save files into this folder. Again, there's nothing here right now, but there will be when we do start saving the files and we do start changing up the settings. So before we do get to that, we need to actually add in a function so then we can load in our settings. So then if we do change up our settings and then they get saved, how are they going to get loaded again when we load back into the game? Well, here's how we're going to do that. Alright, so here's what we're going to be doing in order to set our settings for this settings menu. So we're going to do func set button setting, and what you want to include here is your save name, oops, so you want to include your save name. Then you also want to include the button. So yeah, make sure that you do that. So we're just going to do save button setting, then pass for now. Then we'll be doing another one, so we're going to be doing set option setting. So this will be for the option buttons. And then save name once again, then button, just like that. And then we'll just do pass for now too. And then func, so this is the last thing, set slider setting, save name, and then slider. Alright, so here's what we're going to do here. So first up, what we're going to do, so we're going to go into the button setting. We're going to go var button setting equals file access. In fact, we could literally just grab this here. That's what we need to do. We just need to grab this. And if you want to, instead of calling it button setting, we can just call it load, you know, because we're loading it. And then instead of write here, you want to change this to read. Just like that. So basically what we're doing is we are grabbing our save file and we are reading it. And if that save file exists, so if load, which means if it exists, then what we do is we do if load.getAsText. So what we're doing is we are grabbing the text from the file. And if that text in the file equals to false, then what will happen is our button, so button.button underscore pressed, will equal to false. And then we can just copy this here, paste it underneath, and else if load.getAsText equals to true, so instead of false we change that to true, then button.button pressed will equal to true. Just like that, and boom. So that there is how we're going to be setting our button settings. So in our ready function, what we're going to be doing here is we'll do set button setting. And then you want to basically just do this line multiple times depending on how many button related settings you have. So for example, with me, I have the volumetric button, the glow button, the SSIL, and VSync. So I'm going to be doing it 4 times. So for the set button setting, you need to make sure that you put in your save name and your button. So in quotations, I'm going to put in volumetric or volume. Wait, what did I call the save name again for the volumetrics? Oh yeah, that's right, I just called it volumetrics. So volumetrics, and then comma, and then you want to enter in your button name, so I'm going to be doing volumetric button, and boom, there we go. So then I'm just going to do this again a few more times. So now we do glow, and then we put in our glow button here. So basically what we are doing here is we are basically setting our settings when our game loads in, and boom, there we go. So that there is how we simply set our button related settings. So when our game loads in, or when a new scene loads in and you want your settings to be set correctly depending on what you last set them to, then that's how you do it for the button settings. So now next up we have the option button settings. So again, it's going to be very similar to this. So we just grab this file here, var load, paste that here, and then if load, then what we do is we do button dot selected. So basically we are setting the selected value of the option buttons, since if we go to the option buttons here, right, as you can see we have this selected value here, and this basically determines what option is selected for our option buttons. So what selected will equal to here is load.getAsText. However, it can't just simply be set to load.getAsText. What we need to do is we need to convert this string in the load file to an integer. So we need to convert it. So we need to do int, and then we can do parentheses, and then another parentheses after the getAsText line. And boom, now that button selected value is going to be correctly set to an integer, which is loaded from the load file. Oh, and also something else important which I forgot to do as well is in our set button setting we need to do load.close, since we need to make sure that we close the file after we're done using it. Same thing here, load.close, just like that. And so now with the set option setting, what we can do here, since we've got this all set now, it's, you know, pretty much done there. We can now do set option setting, and then now we can enter in our option button related settings. So first off I'm going to do the FPS, and then we want to, you know, add in the FPS button, just like that. Alright, so now we're going to do the set slider setting. So again, we're going to copy this. Just copy this line here, paste it right here. Boom. Then what we're going to do is we're going to do if load. So if if the file exists, then what we're going to do is we're going to do slider.value equals to float. So we're going to be converting our file into a float. Then we'll do load.getAsText. So we're getting the text from the file, just like we have previously. And we do load.close to close the file after using it, and then boom, just like that. That is how we set the slider settings. So now up here, in our ready function, do set slider setting, and then you want to enter in your slider save names. So for example, for me, 3D scaling, and we get the scale slider, just like that, and there we go. So now we have all our settings being set. So now that we have our settings being set, what we need to do now is we need to make sure that our settings functions here actually get activated and happen. So now what we're going to do in our ready function is we are now going to type in the functions for each of our settings here that get set. So first up, I'm going to do set volumetrics, and that's the first thing to appear for me. So I'm going to do set volumetrics. Then here you want to enter in your volumetric button pressed. So basically we're getting the volumetric button, and we're getting specifically the button pressed variable from the volumetric button, so then we can set the volumetric setting accordingly. And you want to do the same thing with all the other settings as well. So set glow, and then $glow button pressed, since we want to set that to the button pressed value of the glow button, and boom. And you just want to do this with literally every other setting that you have. Volume slider.value for the master volume setting. Window mode. Alright, we're almost there. We just got a few more settings to do now. And I think that might be it for all the settings. I think that's it. Oh wait, I think I messed the I think I missed something. I think I missed the scaling. Oh, I think it's just scale 3D, I think I called it. And we're just going to enter in the scaling slider here. Dot value, and boom. Now all the settings, I'm pretty sure, are now all saved. So let's actually go test this out and see how everything all goes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my level scene. So I'm just going to open it up just like that. Alright, so I got an error when trying to test the scene. It's because I had load.closed out of if load. Make sure you have that indented into if load, since otherwise there won't be any save file to close if you can't, load the save file. So then why are you going to try close it if it's not already loaded? So yeah. Anyways, that should be all good now. Let's actually go test again and see how everything all works. And yep, everything is all good. Alrighty, so what we're going to do now is we are going to go settings, and we are now going to change up our settings here. Alright, so for the 3D scaling, I'm going to set that down to about there. I'm going to change the window mode to exclusive full screen. We'll change the anti-aliasing to TAA. Set the FPS cap to... We'll just leave that as uncapped. We'll turn off all these settings here. Then we'll set the shadow filter quality to hard. Turn down the master volume. Turn this down, and just basically play around with these. Alright, so all the settings have been pretty much all played around with. Now what we're going to do is we are going to exit the game, and we're going to see how they set. So this is how the game looks currently with the settings we have set. So once we load back into the game, hopefully the game will look just like how we left it. So let's go exit. And now if we actually go project and then open user data folder, as you can see here, we now have all of our save files here. So we have 3D scaling.skibbitytoilet, aa.skibbitytoilet, we have all these files here. And as you can see, just like I used as an example, the skibbitytoilet file extension does work. Like I said, you can literally use any name for the file extension. I used something as crazy as skibbitytoilet as an example, just to show the sort of wild names you can give your file extensions. And if you ever want to open up these files for yourself, you can just go right click and then open up with Notepad. So as you can see here with my 3D scaling file, when we open it up, in here is just some text which says 0.45, since that is what my current scaling slider setting is set to in the game. So we can just go close all this now. Alright, so now let's go load back into the game and hopefully all the settings will be correctly loaded. Alrighty, so now we are loaded back in, and by the looks of things, everything looks good. I mean, I can't hear anything since I turned down my volume the last time. Everything seems to work all pretty well. So if I go into my settings here again, as you can see, all the settings are set correctly. My 3D scaling set correctly, the window mode, VSync, the anti-aliasing, the FPS cap, all these options here, the shadow filter quality, all this, everything is all set to how it should be. So anyways guys, that's going to be the end of part 17 of this series, where I basically just showed you guys, how to make a basic settings menu in Godot. Who knows what I'm going to title this video, if I'm just going to title it, how to make a settings menu, or part 17. You guys will see when the video is uploaded, of course, but yeah, anyways, thank you all for watching, and yeah, I'll see you all in part 18. We are heading closer towards finishing this game. I know it's been taking a while. I thought I was only going to do 10 parts for this series, but it's been taking longer than I thought, since, games can take longer to make than you think. But anyways, see you all soon, and bye-bye.